The ERP Doctors with Dan Aldrich and Sam Gupta, powered by InsightJam.
Welcome back to the ERP Doctors, your source for everything ERP and enterprise technology. I am Dan Aldrich. I'm here with my co-host, Sam Gupta. And what I'd like to do is first just explain a little housekeeping about the format of the show for everybody if you're new to the show. First, we'll have 3 20-minute segments or sections. The first one will be a discussion between Sam and I about a lot of emerging technology news, especially enterprise software and ERP, but also spanning other things like AI. The second section will be an interview section, and I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing my former boss and the founder of the Baan Company, Jan Baan, today. So, and the third section will be a Q&A, and we'll try to talk about Jan's. I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to talk about with Jan's interview, and then also some other questions that might have come up from the first section. So I'd like to show you here. This is my ERP Doctor shirt. I actually have a website out there for you guys to check out also. It's erpdoctors.com, of course. If you look at the top right of the page, there are 4 social media icons. So we have a LinkedIn page, we have a Facebook page, we have a YouTube channel, and we have Twitter/X. So you can go there. So I'd like to just kick off. Why don't we just dive right in, Sam? Okay, I have a few questions to ask, a few articles, 5 of them, actually. Hopefully we can get to all of them. And the first one I want to talk about with Sam is SAP is strengthening its focus on AI with a dedicated growth area for AI. So in other words, they're trying to infuse AI into basically all of their other products like S/4HANA, like SuccessFactors, all kinds of things like that. So it's a change in strategy in a way. They're shuffling how they're doing the executive team, and this is a dedicated AI effort. So also they have what's called SAP Joule, which has been out in the market, but I think it's just getting started, right, Sam?
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think this is definitely a very exciting development. And then I'll offer my interpretation of the story. Then I would definitely love to hear a little bit more about what you are feeling overall from the story perspective. So, this is very expected. Most of the large majority of the enterprise software companies, they are going to be investing in AI because AI is going to be driving a lot in general. There are companies who have announced that they are not going to get into the technical development of AI, and that is generally going to be, for example, your LLM development. The companies such as, I think I heard Acumatica saying that they are not necessarily doing the development itself. They are probably going to utilize the model to be able to train for their own business processes, or they are going to infuse AI in the product. My understanding of SAP's business model is that they are going to do a lot more development in general, not only simply utilizing the existing LLMs, but they are going to do far deeper capabilities the way you would like to see in the enterprise products. So that is my understanding. And again, this is very consistent trend that we are going to see across every single enterprise software vendors. Obviously, SAP is no exception. One thing that I personally like about this particular story, Dan, is that they are creating a dedicated practice, which means it's going to be like a COE. So which is very exciting that they have kind of a mission for the AI, and it's not going to be just giving it to departments and let them figure out whatever they can. So this is very exciting the way they are approaching this. So Dan, again, over to you. I don't know what you picked up from my comments and the story.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of interesting, the timing, right? You got Dr. Hasso Plattner, who was the founder 52 odd years ago of SAP, stepping down. And there's been some management changes over the last, they appointed one chairman and then got rid of that one and had a new chairman. So I think that they are correct in saying that we need to infuse AI into everything that we're doing and create a dedicated department for that. Right. So one thing that I'm a little disappointed in with that is they tend to have examples of success factors, right? So that's their HR capability, and it's fine. But what I'm looking for is S/4HANA. I want to see them put Joule more into S/4HANA. I see some limited, indications. I've been watching some videos, and I went on SAP site and everything, trying to find AI capabilities. And it seems that there are some purchasing and supply chain kinds of applications, but I want to see it more in the manufacturing area. I want to see it in MES. I want to see it in doing, prescriptive, predictive type things in the supply chain. That's what I would love to see from SAP. And maybe you get it. Maybe you get it now that they're having a dedicated.
Yeah, so minor clarifications there, and this is my understanding, obviously, of how they are bundling the product, and this is all just the product bundling and marketing. Sometimes it might not be as visible, I guess, but my understanding is that at least in the cloud world, the success factors is bundled as part of your S/4HANA suite. That's how they are marketing. When you say S/4HANA suite, it contains your the core ERP that is in the center. And then you are going to have all of these dedicated apps. The difference between your ECC and S/4HANA architecture, and that's what people sort of don't understand, how these two architecture differ. In the ECC world, there were a lot of HR processes that resided inside your ECC product. Now they are trying to move those to your best of breed applications, and that's where the role of SuccessFactors is. Now, to your comment related to AI, overall, the application of AI, if you look at it, then you have a lot more application in general in the HR processes, because that's where you have the AI is far more, I would say, useful for the kind of use cases that you are going to have inside the HCM workflow. You might have a lot of applications here as well, but you are not going to see as much business benefits. And that's why we are not hearing as much about AI into the core ERP workflows. In HR, SNOP, you are going to hear a lot more in general. So that is just comment. And if you have anything else to add there, or we can move to the next one, I guess.
No, that's good. Yeah, I want to just rocket through these things to make sure we get them all, because they're very interesting, all 5 of them. Okay, so next one is Wipro. Is it Wipro or Wipro? I never know. Wipro. Okay. And IBM expand partnership to offer new AI services, more AI, support clients. I think this one is, Wipro is a services firm, right? So like a Cognizant or whatever, right? So it's more of an offering, I think, a bundling with an IBM platform with Watson. And I think IBM is that's the play, right? They want to have services around. It's not really a product so much as it is services, and how do you build? Because they said they have some standard Watson applications, right? So the AI applications were in the article that I was looking at. But I think that IBM is a little bit late to the party, maybe, with this kind of thing, right? AI capability, and they try to weave Watson into everything, right? So you got to use Watson for that. But I think it's but is that the way you perceive it? Is they're trying to make a service more than a product?
So I'll give you some background, I guess, overall of the IBM positioning, as well as Wipro's as well. Okay, so Wipro, as we have covered at least 2 different system integrators in the last 2 segments, I guess, Cognizant and Virtusa. So obviously, as you correctly pointed out, that Wipro is going to be a very similar system integrator. They do business around the enterprise products that are going to be your ERP products or any of the AI products. Now, IBM is a very interesting play here, right? So IBM is primarily a consulting company, service company. They also have a lot of different products, okay? So Watson is supposed to be an AI product that they are working on. They have a lot of different applications of the Watson products. So now, number one, they are going to consult on it themselves because they have a large consulting practice, but they also work with a lot of different system integrators. So in this particular case, what Wipro is trying to do is Wipro is trying to create a practice around Watson capabilities. In general, Watson was very ahead in AI capabilities, but I don't know where they are at this point of time. because a lot more companies are far more ahead in AI capabilities. But I was hearing, on CNBC that, they are doing really good as well. In general, where Watson is positioned in the kind of industries where it has the most relevance is going to be in industries such as your media, sports, a little bit of telecom, maybe healthcare. That's where you have a lot more data and the real application for Watson. And my assumption would be that that Wipro consults in those spaces. That's why they have a play here. That's why they are sort of trying to create practice. Now, how this overlaps with other news stories that we are hearing in the market around, other companies creating generative AI practices, that's slightly different. So Wipro is taking a very different approach because their verticals might be different. That could be the reason why they are taking this approach. So that's my take, Dan.
Yeah, okay. I take it exactly the same way, actually. But I think that you Wipro being if you bring it back to like enterprise software technology, just within they have a practice for SAP. Let's say they would need to know how to do Joule. This is completely separate. I think this is IBM kind of late stage play in the AI market, working with a services firm. And they are, like you say, I mean, they're primarily a service firm, but sometimes they acquire products and they just kind of go to die in a way.
Yeah, just to be clear, I guess right? IBM
they'll
was probably the first one. IBM was the first one in the AI
they
game.
Probably
Nobody was doing AI before, when IBM was there with respect to Watson. Because Watson was really powerful.
It's been around since mainframe days almost, hasn't it? In various stages, and I mean, it's only recently that it's picked up. Okay, all right, great. I think we agree about that that kind of cooperation that they're doing there. Okay, so third thing, new Oracle Enterprise Communications Platform transforms how industries communicate. Okay, so this is more of a communications play from Oracle. Now, Oracle is in the enterprise space, of course, and they have their ERP platforms as well. But this is more on the communications line. Is that the way you understand it?
So let's review the Oracle's target market and when I was reading the layers, I did a little bit of research in terms of where this fits in, and it's very interesting because it could very well be confused with, for example, Industry 4.0. A lot of my Industry 4.0 peers are going to think that this is related to that. But if you really read between the lines, Oracle's target market, especially in this context, is public sector slightly, and public sector has the emergency communication flow as well as the resources or the crew that they need to manage in the field, and that's why they are going to have all of these devices. For example, cops, or the emergency workers. So that's a very, very, very different process. In this as well, these devices are going to be edge devices, and you have to manage the workflow. But overall, when you compare this with any other platforms in the market, for example, let's say if you compare this with IFS. IFS is going to have comparable capabilities, but their capabilities are going to be slightly different than what Oracle is doing. In fact, I had no idea that Oracle was so deep into this particular suite. This is a very unique capability that is going to be super applicable to these industries, especially in public sector, and that's where Oracle is very, very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, it almost overlaps with ServiceNow. We talked about ServiceNow, right? These capabilities in the field with cops and first responders and things like that. I think that they are starting to get into that area as well. So but I'm like you. I didn't really realize that Oracle. I always see them as enterprise, database, and of course, and running everybody's database, but also having enterprise applications like Fusion Cloud and EBS or whatever they're calling their latest ERP. But in some in the manufacturing space, but they're more in the services area. I think that where they're really strong on the enterprise level is, like you said, more enterprise service provision, government, that sort of thing. They even have, I think Oracle has a government cloud too.
They do. Oracle, I mean, a lot of them. a lot of providers are going to have government cloud, but typically what that means is you are going to have accreditation for government from the data perspective. It's just a certification. It doesn't mean, you need that as well, but these are real capabilities, that they have developed for very government specific process flows. These are slightly different. I'll touch on one more point that you mentioned related to ServiceNow. ServiceNow is amazing. They are doing work more into the workflow automation space, but here these capabilities are slightly deeper. These guys are doing the real hardware integration as well. I don't know if ServiceNow, at least we have not seen so far whatever materials that we have reviewed that they are into that space. So this is almost like an IoT play, but different twist for IoT is what I'm reading.
Yeah, I never think of Oracle in the context of IoT. I would never think of them in that space, but it's like they're moving a little bit on the edge of that space. So
different workflow, different needs, I guess. So very interesting story.
All right, great. So let's move on to the next one. Salesforce offers new Marketing Cloud edition to help small businesses grow faster using, you guessed it, AI.
So I'll give you.
Go ahead. You want to go first? No, I was going to say this is almost pure marketing, I think, marketing campaigns and branding and content generation. This is a thing that's a very interesting topic that I've gotten into with a lot of people on LinkedIn, a lot of LinkedIn friends, is that, where does AI go into content generation and what's real and what's not, and where's the line, and how does AI compete with original writing? So I'm a fan of original writing myself. And I know that I've been kind of resistant to the AI, and I tried it a couple times, and it came up with some content that I didn't like, because it wasn't my writing, right? But I do see the Salesforce, what they're doing here is they're bringing it into their CRM, right? First of all, and then they're making marketing. They're giving you the ability to use sort of a co-pilot to develop content on the fly and marketing campaigns and things like that. So it says like add a new campaign, and then it will use AI to generate, based on the prompts, I guess.
There are some more colors.
Understand it?
There are some more colors to the article, so I'll touch and I'll provide some background as well. We have done a lot of Salesforce implementation ourselves, so we have a little bit deeper background, I guess. Overall from their product alignment perspective. So overall, and I don't know, whether you understand, they have 2 or 3 different offerings, right? So they have Sales Cloud, they have Marketing Cloud, then they have the Customer Service Cloud as well, right? So when you look at Sales Cloud is the core CRM product offering. The Marketing Cloud is very similar to products such as your Pardot. HubSpot has very deep marketing automation engine. There are many different marketing automation platforms out there, but traditionally they were completely isolated, disconnected. They were not part of one product. Then slowly and gradually, every company started acquiring these products. So HubSpot started more as the marketing automation. Even today, their CRM is not as strong. If you talk about the core transactional model, core CRM, Salesforce took a very different approach. They were always deeper into sort of, I call it as more of the ERP side of CRM, which is going to be slightly more transactional, even though they are not going to have as many layers as you are going to find inside your ERP. So from their perspective, the way this acquisition or the integration worked is these 2 particular products, even though they are going to sell it as one bag, but they were fairly isolated, to be completely honest, okay? So the experience that you got from the embedded products, that was not the same with your Salesforce products, okay? So that is the announcement this one is. So now what they are doing, and one thing that I'm not clear from the article, and maybe then, you can talk more if you have different interpretation there. But my understanding is that, so they are talking about 2 different things. One is that they are trying to develop these things on top of data platform, which is very, 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 very hot right now. That's what they are talking about on Wall Street. If you look at Salesforce's interview right now, they are talking about data cloud, because that's where their play is. Everybody's trying to position that I'm going to bring all of these data sets in one platform, and you are going to get insight enterprise-wide because your underlying systems were never connected. So now data is hot, AI is hot, and you can develop your AI models on top of that. That's why your data cloud is so hot. But my understanding of this experience, because the underlying experience was never as embedded. So I think one of the comments that they have mentioned is they are trying to develop this on top of your Salesforce objects. So when they use the word Salesforce objects, what that means is these are core Salesforce business objects. These are not disconnected application. So I think they are trying to create that embedded experience as part of the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. That's what they are doing as part of the story. But there are many layers, I guess, in the story.
Yeah, and then we're only talking about Marketing Cloud, but I see it the way you see it with Sales Cloud. I mean, why not have it be embedded, and it is Salesforce. Remember, Salesforce is a development platform, right? So you can develop Salesforce-based applications and tie them in, and even some leading into ERP is like a rootstock, for instance, right? Rootstock is developed on the Salesforce using the Salesforce platform. So I can see a scenario where you have it tied to like a rootstock, and then you have all this big data repository that can train your LLMs. And it's kind of like a data lake concept, right? But they can train their LLMs, and they can offer that integrated Copilot kind of experience, I think.
Yeah, so very interesting comments. I think we are at 20 minutes point. So Dan, I don't know if you want to wrap, or do you want to cover some more comments, I guess?
No, I don't want to cover any more because I want to have plenty of time for Jan.
Exactly.
So we'll do this thing. We'll do Limble CMMS next week.
Solutions Review is inviting you to join InsightJam.com. What started a few years ago as a social media event to celebrate enterprise technology has now grown into an always-on tech community with live events, discussions, videos, vendor showcases, and industry resources. Our vetted roster of experts, thought leaders, and analysts are sharing tips and tricks daily. So if you're interested in getting involved, join the long list of companies and brands who have already participated by visiting InsightJam.com today. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to Section 2. In our Section 2, we have an interview with my former boss and a guy that I have a ton of respect for. He is an ERP pioneer in the industry with the Baan Company back in the 90s, and also working on some really interesting things today with Van and Burke. So I wanted to just basically turn it over to Jan, because I wanted to have you, if you could, maybe regale us with a story about Boeing to start.
Good, and thanks for inviting me. The Boeing story, that was one of the most attractive deals last century. And we were able to win from Oracle and from SAP. And why were we able to win? I think it has to do with the fundamentals in Baan Company. The real element as customer or the decoupling point, a real dynamic enterprise modeling, methodology for implementation. It came with guys like you from the BBITs. We trained youngsters. We took, real smart people, youngsters around the world in a class for a couple of months in a mini MBA. We call them boundary spanners, aligning business and IT. And that was all we could do in handling Boeing. And we implemented in a very fast way, very effective way, all one instance, 40,000 users in one instance. And that is still what you can see in Baan today in Infor. It was the fundamentals there in linking everything together and easy to use and real complex in logistics. When it became, I should say, corporate and financials, then Waldorf was winning and SAP was winning. When people were diving in, and that was Boeing did, they trained it months before with a landing gear, and they trained hundreds of processes with hundreds of people, and they gave us in a script to those who have to present it. And that was the reason we were able to win. And even the best compliment I had was from Scott Griffin. He came a couple of years in the Netherlands. He was in Amsterdam, and he gave me a LinkedIn. And he said, Jan, I'm in the Netherlands. Can I join you? I said, no. Can I join you for coffee on your Vaneburg car? I said, no. Only you can come if you take dinner here tonight and you sleep at the castle. And then he came and said, Jan, first of all, maybe you're not aware, it's 20 years ago when we signed the check with Baan. And there's three elements. First, I like to say thank you on behalf of Boeing. Second, thank you for many people, but thirdly, thank you for myself. I became later on the CIO of Boeing, and it was due to you. That means we in Baan created many people to make career in people. Not only with our people, but also with people in our customers. And I think that is what I have seen the biggest elements in Baan be propelled, say, executives or junior executives. And there was a big benefit for many, say, executives who were participating in implementation with Baan. But maybe so far so good, maybe the Boeing deal. Now, let me go a little. We're talking over ERP. You guys, I respect it very much, are the ERP doctors. But that means you have to do some work. Because in my opinion, ERP is the wrong word. I support ERP, but we did not make it. The E should be a D. It can become an E, but it is department resource planning. If you look to big organizations, they have so many instances, you cannot talk. We did not make ERP. You guys can make ERP, then you bring the E from the back end to more, what we say in this one, enterprise, and enterprise, also workflow elements. And that is what I see more. The composing enterprise is on the downstream. And the problem in ERP, we looked only upstream. And we have seen this many layers. It became the mother of all complexity. And even all the players today have their origin before Y2K. Every origin is from last century. They convert the code from last century to today's world, but realize it is not digital native. And we're talking over AI. It never can be the element of AI. It can be a component of AI. Even the database are wrong. You have only the data from today. You're missing, like in big data, you have the data from, you have version release control in data. In the traditional database, 99% of ERP people have no version release control in data. And it's so simple. Now, what the only way to do it is decoupling. And it's good enough, all these layers as a backend solution. Now, then what I did, I brought it in Cordis on end-to-end processes in a middleware layer. Now, even the ERP layers from people today, even Infor, nice functionality, but the middleware stinks. You see Oracle still the same. I sometimes call it confusion. But if you look to it, and even in SAP, the middleware layer is by far not what we see in infrastructure as a service from Google. By far not. Now, why should we then use the infrastructure of ERP? And it's built, the foundation is done in the century before. Now, that is the missing element. But still, the functionality is good enough. It's too complicated for the youngsters in IO, in AI to understand the backend. Now, but the AI part should adopt the data, but should move further to the workflow, to the collaborative workflow. And at the end, AI could only a tool for the wisdom of the knowledge worker, the job to be done. Now, I believe, therefore, it's very strong. It is a combination. We have to execute in the downstream. And if you execute in the downstream, you're talking over Internet of Things, but you need not Internet of Things in ERP. You need it only on the 1 second before the operator starts the job. That means in late binding, you can do it with a sensor on the latest moment on your mobile. That means we have latency data and we have real-time data. Don't mix them together. The real-time data from the Internet of Things can be done on 1 second before the transaction. And it's 100 times simpler than to do it in ERP. Now, in my opinion, the people in ERP are not manufacturers. I became a manufacturer. And manufacturing means decoupling, bring elements in. Look for what the industry did. Look what after Y2K, what the browser did and what came in all the stuff. ERP was not able to adopt it. Now, what we now did, especially in Baan, I'm amazed, especially with my Baan shell I made. And if you look still to the DALs and to the UI and to the standard programs, Infor was clever to have the source code from my brother-in-law, Jan Hasselman, who has the most amazing source code, able to bring it on the internet. Why? The executing element is still there as a Baan shell. In SAP, they have to rebuild it, and you see that the functionality in cloud ERP is less than on-premise ERP. Now, that's stupid. How can it be? Now, and therefore, but what the adopting elements should not be there. It should be coupled, and we should bring them to the workflow, dynamic workflow. That is what we do now with Collabor. And there you see now service. Now let me compare two interesting elements. Two big companies, amazing that service now have a market here close to SAP, amazing. But realize they do amazing stuff, but simple services. They do not incorporate the in-depth manufacturing services yet. Now, that's what we're doing. I may be doing it more like service now, bring everything but should be a service. Realize we're talking digital, but we're all lying. The end of ERP is a document. It's a PDF. It is dead like it can be dead. Now, what we did, we bring a relational database to metadata, and now we go to semantic data. And the service should be a dynamic service, event-driven. And what we need is an end-to-end, one version of the truth, end-to-end, to the latest model.
Right. Can I ask you a question? I want to go back a little bit to what you started to say in the beginning about Boeing, and also about the Boundary Spanner program, and then kind of bridging to what you're doing today, because you're talking about a lot of things that you're doing at the moment. So you built the Baan Company. I came into the Baan Company in 1996. So yep. I went to what you call the BBITS. I just want to clarify a few things for our listeners. The BBITS was the Baan Business IT School. There were 276 graduates of that program, which was the best training program I've ever seen in my life. It was about a 2-month-long program. We got into business and IT and culture and languages and everything. So we learned the software, but we learned business as well. And you called it in the past, you called it a mini MBA, which I think is exactly what it was. And that the people coming out of that program were the ones that you used to win Boeing. So these people were like, I was one of them.
And
thank you very much. In class number 3, yep. Right? And I came out, and I remember going to San Francisco after that, and you were speaking in San Francisco, and I've never seen the energy of that was in that room, was customers, partners, consultants, everything all in one room in this historic hotel in San Francisco. It was so exciting because Baan would just came on the market like gangbusters, right? And beat SAP to win Boeing and win Carrier and all of these different things. And that is what you built, which I think is just phenomenal. That's why I wanted to have you on speaking. But I also wanted to clarify some things too, as you're talking. And then, so I went to the program, I came out of the program and went to manufacturing companies. So Baan was was much more simple, even that you said it was the mother of all complexity, but it was way simpler than SAP. That's one of the reasons for winning over SAP, right? Is that it was way simpler than that, right? And the interface for the time was really good. And that's why we won those kinds of projects. And we really kind of, Gartner was rated you number 2. Number 1. Gartner rated you number 1, even though your market share, based on market share, you were number 2.
The most innovative. We were the most innovative.
Most innovative.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So, I thinking back to that time, I remember you saying at that packed house in this San Francisco hotel, probably 500-600 people packed into this room. You said SAP is number 1, but we're the best. You said. So I'll always remember that. I will always remember that. It's stuck in my head.
But important is then to realize those days were simple. You dealt only with a silo.
Right.
And the logic was stored in the concrete of the silo. And you have no choice. And we did it very simple with a transactional layer. And downstream, you go more to case management, where the human is coming in. And ERP could not do it. It's only transactional. It's limited. It's best practice because you bring it from outside to what one company could not do it. And extremely complicated, tens of thousands of tables in a database. Maybe SAP sometimes come to 100,000 tables. That means people are not seeing that. Now bring it totally to the other world from today in Google's technology. If we go to big data, if you go to Kubernetes, to the containerization, you make it 100 times simpler. That means you bring complex stuff, isolate them like a Lego component, and you do it, and then you synchronize them together. Now, and that means totally. Therefore, is ERP by far too complicated because we have too many database tables. It's the technology from last century, and even we behave today with the same foundation. That's my problem. We did not throw it away.
Right. Well, that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. Was what you're doing now. So basically, you started to explain containerization. You started to explain doing composable applications, right? So that's what we talked about last week, actually, and we're building the story. And Ronald set the stage very, very nicely to tee you up. Was that composable applications can be built on any type of software, right? And they can be built, and this is the rapid development tool that Vandenberg has. That's your third company. And when you said in the video, you said, I burned my ships, you meant that I started again, right?
Yeah,
I had a vision, I had my next vision, and I started the next company. This Vandenberg is really brilliant.
Hindsight, I learned disruptive innovation cannot be done. What we see by the famous Clayton Christensen, the late professor, the innovator's dilemma. Disruptive innovation cannot be done in the existing company because you have the shareholders. Everyone is killing that. They need the value of the vested shares today and not the benefit over 10 years. And the only way to do it is burn your ships. Learn new lessons and adopt, and then you adopt the newest technology. But also you should do it with new business elements. But what we now see, if we see new technology, you do it with simple businesses, with a simple minimum viable product. Because the old big stuff is controlling all the businesses there. Now, that's what we do now with what we see with Rapid in Vandenberg. I learned also a lot in end-to-end processes in Cordis. It's now part of our text. There was a layer of the middleware, but now I need no longer middleware. Infrastructure as a service, Google brings, and the open source components brings 10 times better middleware components in a consumerized way. That means we see the REST API. In the old days, it was there was not what we see a browser in. You can see it. ERP is not built for the browser. Now, but even we are now linking with the browser. Now the API is connecting the dots.
Right. So let me see if I can, make sure I understand it correctly, right? The applications that you're building are in Google Cloud.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really matter. That's just
the agnostic that I prefer. I see Google Cloud is the best.
Yes.
You Gemini with all the stuff. I prefer Google Cloud, but it's agnostic.
Yeah, exactly. And the Gemini is coming in and it's very good. So I think that's also embedded in your rapid application development tool.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you build these applications, modern applications, on your phone, right? On your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop, and access anywhere. Very modern dashboards, all of these things, right?
But they are not driven for the operations longer. They're driven for the user, for the job to be done. That means you are now helping with your mobile phone elements that the operator can do a better job. And with SAP and with Baan's, my products, you delay it because you have to go back to the foundation, to the complexity of the elements. You simplify, but at the other end, you adopt all the data is end to end. That means we take the end to end data from and then in one version of the truth, from the beginning of ERP. Yes. To the latest moment in what we do, composing it in the app, in the workflow. And on the same moment, in 1 second, I can take every sensor from outside, adopt it even together. It's extremely simple.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of separate and in addition to an ERP upgrade, let's say. Yeah. So you're not opposed to ERPs. Right?
It's more.
They're limited, right? They're limited, right?
And don't make the mistake. See, ERP only is the engine.
It's the engine, right? Exactly.
And it's never the foundation for innovation, but it's good enough because it's good enough. because it's more under control for the back-end solutions.
Right.
But you see this cut. But if you look into the customer decouple point, when things are below the decouple point, say master scheduling, let us say ERP. If you go to say project management, could be better in what we did already in microservices. When the customer is coming, when the couple point, when the customer is coming involved, it's more simple. You can put the invoice on the project. Now, from that moment, downstream the customer or the decouple point, you should bring more new elements, sunset it from ERP and bring it to microservices, because the microservices are so extremely strong.
Yes.
You can, but in today's world, you can build totally ERP in microservices. But why should we do it? You win.
No.
It can be done over 10 years. You win more to adopt the legacy and bring and integrate it and optimize the workflow solutions.
Yes. So I tell you what, Jan, we've got a break. Thank you so much for speaking with us. And I'm going to, like customer order decoupling point, some of these other things that we didn't have time to get to explaining, I'm going to go and I'm going to do some posts on LinkedIn. Okay. So look for those. I will use your PowerPoint presentation. I will do a lot of additional work. Okay.
Hey, what's keynote? I don't like, I'm for years on Apple, then you should not do it Microsoft stuff. Keynote.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, you can't use PowerPoint then. I'll just use PDF.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jan.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it.
Want more Insight Jam? Follow us on Instagram for exclusive content like a daily dose of best practices and buying advice from industry experts and leading solution providers. Or subscribe to our YouTube channel for long-form highlights from our expert panel discussions. And if you prefer to listen, please rate and review the Insight Jam podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Google. The Solutions Review team is hard at work collecting the best enterprise technology information from around the globe, so don't miss out. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right, we're back for section 3. So, whew.
I mean, you can feel the energy, I guess, in the interview. I mean, one of the things that you can literally feel how much he knows, how much he's done, and that is very apparent from the interview, Dan, right?
Yeah, it is, and you can, when you hear me talk, and I say, hey, I was in 1998, I was in that room where he was speaking. And he said that, and it just won Boeing and Carrier and UTC and all these companies and Siemens and Mercedes. You know, it was just crazy. So it's a treat for me. It's a little hard to understand sometimes, and I will clarify some things. But I'm sure you have plenty of things to say.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to hit on, some of the points. Definitely very interesting interview. I had a lot of insights personally. For me, it's a lot of learning. One of the things that he had mentioned about hosting 40K users in an ERP instance, that is commendable for a massive manufacturing company like Boeing. Okay,
Boeing.
So he is definitely no less than genius. I completely, agree with that. Even today, if you are going to do something like that, then you require a lot of firepower, not only from the technology perspective, but also from change management perspective, which is far harder than any technology out there. Okay, so massive job.
Yep.
Exactly, massive job. Then the layer that I'm going to mention, then there is, obviously, I mean, he is very, 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 very technical. Okay, he's technical genius. There is no question there. But, overall, when you look at the perspectives, okay, there are 3 or 4 or 5 different perspectives that are going to be relevant for technology adoption. Okay, technology development and technology adoption, these two are 2 completely different things. And the reason why they are 2 completely different things, and why I am able to say that, because I have a degree in technology commercialization and entrepreneurship. And one of the things that they teach, and they have studied every single thing, how much we should be innovating and why we should be innovating. But one of the discovery of that program is literally, I mean, people go through the program, over 2 years, period. And one of the reasons why this program exists is because there is so technology available in the market, to be completely honest. Okay, you have cure for pretty much every single disease out there, but nobody's picking up on that. Why is that? Because number 1, there are no funds available. Number 2, nobody has figured out how to commercialize those. Okay, that is what is called technology commercialization. Okay, if you look at some of the most basic innovations, TV. Did you know then how long it took for people to adopt a TV? I think it was roughly 40-ish years, if my understanding is right.
I was probably alive then. Not like you.
So right now, the technology adoption curve is far faster. You release AI is adopted, okay? But it wasn't the case back then, okay? Even today, the technology adoption is very hard because you get into, number one, who is funding that? Who is investing that? The financial perspective is very different. The project management perspective is very different. The commercialization perspective is very different. So some of the categories that I'm going to hit are going to be more from the market perspective. What does market want? Okay, you can create any technologies out there, but if market does not want that, then you are going to have challenges in promoting those. So number one, renaming ERP to DRP. In my mind, that is slightly inconsistent. Number one, you are on the ERP Doctor Show. Okay, and we are not changing ERP name anytime soon because ERP is as real in 2024, and as it was in 1990s. DRP, in my mind, is sort of inconsistent with the initial point. One of the most innovation that he has done is hosting 40,000 users in one platform. That is a very enterprise-wide problem, and that's why we call this enterprise resource planning, because you are trying to create a platform where the entire company can operate on one operating system. I don't care what you call that, but this is not meant to be siloed. It's not meant to be departmental. Overall, from the marketing and branding perspective, enterprise word has to be there. In ERP, you can give it a different name, but this is a very enterprise cross-functional problem. This is about alignment, more from the business perspective, more from the finance perspective.
Okay.
Some comments related to middleware Infor, I'm going to have to agree with him. Okay. The middleware with Infor is slightly basic. And the reason for that is because the Infor OS that they had bought, the capabilities were not as mature as any other platforms that you are going to find in the market. The right category for Infor OS was iPaaS, and it has a lot more layers than iPaaS, but for the most part, what it is, it's really iPaaS. Most of the cloud iPaaSes that we have in the market, they are fairly basic. In fact, if you compare cloud Boomi versus on-prem Boomi, it's a very different product because the cloud technology is very different. You cannot do the same thing in cloud as you could do in on-prem. On-prem, you violated a lot of enterprise architecture principles that you are not able to violate inside cloud, because now you are hosting a lot of different companies in one database and you have far bigger problems. And if you did this more from the enterprise architecture perspective, the whole idea that cloud is trying to promote is the right way of doing technology, again, from the enterprise architecture perspective.
Okay.
The operational data versus the real transactional data, the financial data, he is absolutely right. Okay. So the operational data, it has a very different structure. You require very different technology. That's why right now, if you look at more from the, again, enterprise architecture perspective, the operational platforms that we have are very different than your financial transaction, operational transaction platform, which is what ERP is known for. So these two are two different problems. Typically, they need to reside in two different data store. And again, once you look at more from the enterprise architecture lenses, then you would know which is going to be fit where. But for the most part, he is right about differentiating between operational data versus the financial data. The cloud versus on-prem, totally different architecture, totally different technology model. You are never going to have the same capabilities that you had in on-prem because you violated every single enterprise architecture principle.
With customization, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
If you want to do right way of IT, that's how you are supposed to do it in cloud, and that's what everybody's trying to promote. So when you are saying that SAP S/4HANA Cloud does not have capabilities, or Infor Cloud does not have the same capabilities, they are not going to have the same capabilities, okay? Because it's a different architecture, it's a different product. So you need to understand how the product is designed. I'll touch on some more points, and do you want to speak first?
Yeah, I mean, I think we weren't even able to get to the point where the biggest points that I wanted to make, which was the composable applications and what he's working on now. So what he's working on now, if I understand it correctly, I don't want to step too much into what he's doing, but is to build these composable architecture, these individual microservices he was talking about. So enter a purchase order, for example, right? Use the API to connect to, let's say, a legacy ERP system like an ECC. Could be legacy on-premise, which is the exciting part of it to me, that he can build these microservices or these composable applications on top of an on-premise system, right? So it would replace parts of an ERP system, not a whole ERP system, just like he said. There's no reason for you to redesign and rebuild an MRP, for instance, right? You keep your ERP system even on-prem or in the cloud or some combination of both. Okay, so you can build these applications, and that's what he's working on. But he's going even a step further, like a ServiceNow would be, just confined to sitting on top of ServiceNow type applications and things like that. Wouldn't be as broad to go across cloud systems, on-premise ERP systems, and all in ServiceNow. Wouldn't be that broad. But what he's working on is the rapid development tool crosses all of that, and it's done in Google Cloud using Kubernetes, like you said, Kubernetes and big data. And he likes Gemini as well. So the AI is there for workflow. So that's the exciting part of what he's doing. And we never really even got there, because he was, just talking. He's doing his Jan thing. But I think that's the exciting part of the whole thing. And it's not that he's opposed to ERP. That's why I asked him the question. I said, you're not against ERP, are you? You're not against cloud ERP. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I sell cloud ERP, so I'm not against cloud ERP. I want to see it all over the place. But what I think is that it coexists, right? In a big digital transformation or business transformation project. I mean, you don't meant to take a Boeing. Boeing has probably SAP, Baan 4, they've got all kinds of stuff, right? But you can build these applications on top, and then you focus on maybe the customizations, right? You focus on maybe the customizations, because like you said, we have a bunch of customizations that were developed just because we like to do customizations. And we had IT, some business user says, I need this. And they go, sure, I'll do that for you. And you got nothing to do. So make another customization, right? There are hundreds, if not thousands of those, in addition to millions of lines of code. So it's a very complicated thing. Like Jan was saying, it's very complicated, ERP is. So let's simplify it and build these microservices, which are the components. But he's even taking it a little bit further, and he's saying, I'm going to string these together into an application that's like an order to cash, right? That has available to promise, looks at the supply chain. So it can have applications that have algorithm to look at a supply chain, for instance, right? And get a true available to promise number. That's what I see the power. And he's working with a guy named Bob Gendry, who's brilliant. He's a Baan 4. He wrote a book about Baan 4. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. And they're kind of working together. So we didn't even get to that part, but that's kind of what I wanted to say is kind of the meat of it is that for me.
Yeah, so some very interesting arguments there. In fact, if you look at some of my commentary from the past, I guess I have been very consistent in terms of how I like to position myself, okay? So I have been big proponent of headless microservices. These are the technologies that I strongly believe in. So whatever he's working on, I am a big believer of those, okay? But they have a place. That is where my problem is, okay?
Sure.
They have a place, right? So if you are trying to create, for example, let's say if you are trying to champion that, whatever ERP has done for last 30, 40 years, that is a very business-centric problem. Okay, that cross-functional integration is a very business-centric problem that is very hard to mimic using microservices. Technologies are not there today to be able to do that. The database reconciliation that you are going to need, the kind of reconciliation that you are going to need in that case. Okay, you are never going to have the same experience using microservices. Now, where microservices you can wrap is, let's say if you want to expose one service over ERP, one service over HCM, you might have different functionality that you might expose, but you are not going to do your unit costing inside if you are going to store the state of inventory.
But you don't want to. You don't want to. Why do that? Unit costing is done very well within the ERP, right? Just upgrade the ERP.
But if you are trying to champion that, your microservices are going to replace the ERP. ERP is bad. ERP is not bad. ERP is not bad. ERP is never going to be bad.
I think he answered that question, right? I asked him that question. I said, you don't really think ERP is bad, do you? You know, maybe he doesn't like the middleware from Infor or whatever, but he doesn't think the ERP is bad, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and middleware has
let the things, if it's doing it well, it's modern enough, let it sit there and then have a long-term plan to bring it up to the cloud, and then it does it better, or it does it in a more user-friendly manner with dashboards and analytics and predictive capabilities and all kinds of things like that with the AI, because you can't do the AI on premise, right? You can't have an LLM that maybe you can, but I don't know that you can. So I think that this is the exciting part to me. And that's why I admire this guy so much. He's 70, I think he's 78. He may be 77 going on 78. Can you look at the guy's enthusiasm? Look at his knowledge. Look at the knowledge that's there and the vision that he has. He's borderline genius. I mean, he'll see this.
He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
I think he's a borderline genius. So that's why I was so excited. And that's also why I wanted to let him talk. It's difficult to interrupt him anyway, because he just gets on a roll. But I didn't want to interrupt him. I mean, we had a limited amount of time, and I just wanted him to speak. And he did that video, and that kind of fills in a lot of the blanks. And he talks about what I'm going to do is I'm going to go take his video, and I'm going to explain what is a customer order decoupling point, because nobody knows what that is except for people who work for Baan, right?
Yeah. So then I guess, we are at 57-minute point. So I don't know if you want to cover, some more questions. I guess we had some questions. Would you like to act on those?
Yeah. How about how can diversified suppliers help manufacturing professionals?
Yeah. So I guess, so there is some more there. So I guess I'll read that. So it's saying, is this a feasible solution to any of the problems this report mentioned? So I think they are talking about the report that we did not cover, I guess in the first section. Exactly. So there was a report, for the manufacturing, and I'll read some of the stats from there so that we are accurate in our reporting. So here they are saying more than half, 51% of the respondents chose excessive downtime, aging infrastructure, or workforce issues as one of their top 3 current challenges. So this is the report that is coming from Limble CMMS. We'll be releasing a new report titled State of Manufacturing. So this is the report about manufacturing as well as facilities maintenance report. There's one more stat that is mentioned here. 69% of the manufacturing and facility maintenance professionals said they are focused on diversifying suppliers to address challenges within their supply chain. So this is obviously a very interesting report. And sometimes, to be completely honest, I like reports. Obviously, they offer a lot of intel, but it's very, very, very hard to understand, who they really interviewed or who they spoke to. So it's very hard to assess, but I will tell you where I personally agree with the report, what I have seen in my experience, and then maybe you can offer that as well, right?
Yeah, I can.
So, So here, one of the things that is mentioned is, I would say excessive downtime and aging infrastructure in workforce. Workforce is very consistent. You ask any manufacturers, as well as, facilities maintenance companies, I mean, they are all going to have the workforce challenge problem. That is the problem that is across the industries. Even for businesses like us, ERP industry is facing very similar problem. So talent is always going to be a problem. But in my mind, when you look at any of the talent-centric issues, typically I call this as more of the supply chain problem. It's supply and demand problem, not supply chain, I guess. The reason why supply and demand matters here is because, your cost of hiring has become so high that businesses cannot really afford, they cannot really pay as much, but labor is demanding a lot, and you don't really have talent as much as businesses like, and their expectations are going to be higher because they are paying a lot more. So this is really a misbalance, to be completely honest, in the talent supply chain, and that's why we are hearing from all of these industries that problem exists. The other points that are mentioned here is excessive downtime, as well as aging infrastructure. I'm not too sure if that is true. If that is going to be there, that is most likely because they are not necessarily replacing those, or they don't see value in replacing those. So that could be a possibility. Obviously, the report is done by CMMS. From their perspective, if you really think about it, they are saying that you are going to have a lot more maintenance issues. And that is right. If you are going to have aging infrastructure, then you are going to have a lot more maintenance issues. And that's why if you are going to have admin effort, then you might struggle. So you definitely want to have something like CMMS system if you are taking care of those issues. So all in all, very interesting analysis. So Dan, over to you if you're going to have any comments on that.
Yeah, sure. So in manufacturing companies, I mean, the skills gap has been around for years, and it's just getting worse, right? Young people, and same for ERP. Young people don't want to get into that. They want to do sexier stuff. They think manufacturing plants is what their parents did, and it's dirty and it's grimy, and it's not at all like that. By the way, the skills that they really need are things like data engineers, people who can repair robots, people who can program robots, things like that. They're higher level jobs. They're not line jobs, by and large. And I think there's trade schools can play a role in this, manufacturing trade schools, like they do in Germany, for instance. In the car industry, they have a good supply. There's people that, don't want to, they graduate high school, they don't want to go to college. They want to go to a trade school and work at a manufacturing. And if you can make it a little bit sexier, I guess, I don't know, or higher level skills, it's like joining the Army, right? You have to train you how to be a technical or an engineer or something like that, right? So if you go into that environment and it's clean and it's machine driven, it's got numerically controlled machines and robots and everything like that, it's not a bad place to work. So they got to make that more attractive, and we got to have some boot camps for ERP. I can tell you that. Just like BBITS with Jan Baan. I mean, he did that is the most beautiful program that I've ever seen. And, of course, I went through it. I was one of those 276 boundary spanners that he was talking about. He used to call me a green bean, just starting the school. But we need something like that for ERP, right? SAP needs it, Baan, Infor, all of those need it. So in manufacturing companies, I think that's in order for us to do reshoring and stuff like that and fix the supply chain, which, part of it is getting more suppliers, yes. But part of it is just being able to look and have some sort of applications, or maybe it's AI, maybe it's RPA or something that looks into various suppliers' supply chains and says, where is this? How long is it going to take to get here? Things like that. And then also the predictive on the machines, which I think is the CMS is maintenance, right? So it's the maintenance on the machines, being able to predict when they're going to go down, and also focusing on bottleneck machines too, right? Make sure that they're running 24/7, so that you can keep your throughput going. So.
Yeah, could not agree more. Great insights, I guess. I don't know, Dan, do you want to wrap? I think we are close to our time now.
Yeah, I think we're probably over our time. So anyway, I enjoyed it like always. We'll come back next week with another interview and another episode, another bunch of issues. And thank you so much.